What's up, guys? It's the first episode of the Mind Talks podcast, which I've worked very hard for. So I'm super excited to bring on our first guest, who he is an MMA fighter, MMA coach, fitness coach, and he's helped me a lot in my own MMA career and with improving my life. So without further ado, Marcos, the Lightning Kid Estrada. What's up? Can you hear me?
Hello,
What's up? Hello?
can you hear me?
Yeah, you got me?
We're all good.
All
What's
right,
up, brother?
perfect. What's up with you? How are you?
I'm good, man. Just hanging in there. Just
Yeah,
enjoying Friday.
yeah,
About to
me
head to the
too.
gym in a little bit. Gonna go get some training in. Got some teaching I gotta do,
Nice.
and then that'll be it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get right into it. So I know you started combat sports at a very young age. I believe you said you started wrestling when you were 8. You can
A
correct me.
lot younger than actually. That's when I started doing jujitsu.
Jiu-Jitsu
I
was at
started
8.
wrestling when I started wrestling. I was probably around 4 or 5.
Nice. Okay.
My dad wrestled in high school.
Uh-huh.
He wrestled in the Marine Corps. And so, he had me right out of high school. So he was like 19 years old. So,
Mhm.
throughout that whole time, he started teaching. He was coaching wrestling in the Marine Corps, doing a little competing. He did some freestyle out there. So that whole time, I was around. I was on the mat, and I probably didn't start competing until I was about 6.
Mhm.
But for the most part, like I grew up on the wrestling mat. Yeah, and then later, when he started doing jujitsu, I wanted to start doing it too. So that's when I was like 8 or 9 is when I first started doing like jujitsu at a gym that we started going to.
So, was there like a time where you were sort of like, okay, this is what I want to do? Because I know you're a coach, you're a fighter, jiu-jitsu competitor, all of the above. So was there a time when you really figured out like, all right, this is what I'm going to do? And just talk a little bit about that.
No, man, honestly, like, this is just kind of what I've always liked, is I've always did it just because it was something that, I had fun doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so naturally I just kind of wanted to be around, where the places that I like to be. I like being at the gym, on the mat, training jujitsu and stuff. So, it kind of just happened that way, like I got an opportunity to work with the UFC gym. I started
Mm-hmm.
actually doing sales with them. But we had know the GM, he was looking for people, and that's kind of just how I got like just gravitated towards that, just because it's like, hey, this is what I like to do, this is a cool opportunity, let me give this a shot. And then through kind of being at the UFC gym and selling, right, like
Mm-hmm.
selling memberships and PT and stuff, and watching classes and stuff, it's like, man, I could do this. Like there's
Yeah.
actually times when I had to cover classes because the instructor didn't show up, and it's like, all right, well, we can either cancel this class, or you could throw a shirt on and go teach it. And so that was kind of like where I really first started, like, man, I really like doing this,
Mm-hmm.
coaching and like teaching classes and stuff. Like it's I don't know, I really kind of fell in love for it like when I first started, and it was like maybe 2016. And it was never really something I ever wanted to do professionally. It was just something I did for extra money. I was in college at the time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, it was just again, something I know, something I knew that I could actually teach and share. And it kind of just started moving towards that. But maybe I would say within the last 2 years, when I got my purple belt, I was I really had a newfound, like, all right, you're at the next level now. You kind of gotta be a little bit more serious, and dedicate a little bit more time to the craft. So
Yeah,
that's
for
another
sure.
thing too. You
I
don't want to be
definitely,
a whack ass purple belt.
yeah, yeah. I definitely wish I was able to get into it a lot younger, but I still feel, very fortunate the stuff that I know now at, being 16, but the stuff that I know now, I feel like I already have a bit of an advantage mentally over my competition. And that's thanks to guys like, you and Tyler and
Yeah,
Professor Anthony and podcasts. And it's,
yeah,
it's,
yeah, dude. I mean, you're at a really great age. Like MMA, I first started being introduced to MMA at like 15.
mhm,
And so even then, it was again something that I just like to do. you seem to be a little bit more serious about it, and that's kind of where MMA is right now, where kids who um, you know had dreams of being in the NFL
Hmm.
or the MLB or the MLS, whatever, playing soccer.
Yeah.
They now want to be fighters.
Yeah.
Like those kids who were, I'm sure you at one point maybe you aspired to be some kind of pro athlete
Yeah, for sure.
before
Baseball was my
fighting.
thing for a while.
Baseball, right?
Yeah.
Exactly right. But then you got to see and the level of competition and how many people are really trying to do this thing, and fighting is one of those things where I could start tomorrow, and in the next 5 years of true real hard dedication I could be at the world level.
Yeah.
If I started tomorrow, I could train for the next 50 years and I'd never make it into the NBA, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, so it's one of those things where people are starting to realize, like, hey, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't jack my body up playing football. Maybe I can learn a martial art and actually learn how to, defend myself. And then they find themselves in a new career, which, happens all the time.
Yeah. And I feel like with martial arts training, it's more of a whole community that takes care of their bodies and its recovery. And, that's the thing you got me into, which I got right here. We could talk about these, the
Oh,
game
yeah,
changers, the so right,
absolutely.
so spine.
Mine
But
are around here somewhere. Yeah.
yeah, doing the meditations and the cold plunges and all that. And
Yeah.
it, it's good to see, because it's an individual's sport to where,
Yep.
you're competing by yourself, but you have
Hmm.
a whole community backed behind you. And it's
Yeah.
it's nice to see a community grow and being able to complement each other and seeing how I'm progressing with somebody else. And I think
Yep.
that's a reason why jujitsu in particular is a huge growing sport. Yeah, I think that's a huge reason. Um,
Yeah, I mean, like you hit it right on the head, man. Like it's an individual sport, but without a community, you actually can't really do it.
yeah,
Like I can't train and get better without a partner.
yeah,
I can't learn and grow without an instructor. So like
yeah,
there has to be a social factor to it. There has to be some kind of interaction, or else it's not really jujitsu. It's more like yoga at that point.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
so you're absolutely right. Like it's not necessarily about individual competition, right? Like it's because like if I, only focus on smashing my partner and not helping him to get better, eventually I might outgrow him or eventually he might quit and then I'm out of a training partner,
yeah,
right? So
exactly.
it
Yeah,
would be more beneficial for me and you to train together and grow alongside each other,
yeah,
right? And then eventually progress to the next rank or the next, stage in life, whatever, right? Like,
yeah.
but yeah, it's literally a whole community of everybody trying to do the same thing, that's achieve black belt or mastery, right?
Yeah, I also think, and I could be wrong, but it's sort of, my perception on this. I feel like there's sort of a stigma with other sports where it's like somebody way advanced doesn't want to, I don't want to say help, but contribute to a
Yep.
younger person's career. Where it's like in jujitsu, you'll always see a purple belt or a blue belt or a brown belt or whoever, helping out a white belt or, you
Yeah.
know, situations like that. It's a different type of bond that I don't think you understand unless you are at a jujitsu academy or wrestling or something like that.
100%. Yeah, it's a scarcity mentality, which means that if I help you to the top, there won't be any room for me,
Yeah,
right? Like that's the kind of thing is like, but for me personally, like the way that I see it, this very same way that you're describing it is like, well, if I help everybody get to the top, now I have a bunch of training partners,
hmm,
right? Like now if I help everybody around me get to black belt, now I got 20 black belts I get to train with,
and that's it
you
is.
know?
It's the only sport where you're like, man, I want to be around. I want to be in the same room as the best of the best. Like
Yep.
me personally, I would rather be the worst guy in the gym working with all black belts on my way up than being the best guy in the gym. It's really a different thing.
100%. And you see that a lot too in like other combat sports like boxing where there are alphas, there are people who, they're the best of the best in the gym, and they don't allow other people who are as good or better than them. And it's my dad always said, like, if you're the baddest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
for
Like,
sure.
you're not getting better, you're not progressing, because if you can smash everybody around you, then there's really no point, right? Like,
Yeah,
it's just you're called a practice room champion.
yeah. So you've been in combat sports, like we said, for 20 plus years. Let's
Yeah.
get into some stories. I know you've traveled training at some of the best places in the world. Let's get
Yeah.
into that a little bit and hear what your favorite stories are, some bad stories, whatever you got.
Yeah, yeah, man. So, I had the opportunity of traveling to New York twice last year in 2019. 2019 had a lot of good traveling, but I got to go visit Henzo Gracie's in Manhattan. So the
Mhm.
Blue Basement, that was
Yeah,
really, really cool, man. Just to see, the level of tenure, or like just how deep those roots go. Like, man,
yeah.
they're like I'd seen more black belts in one class, than you'd see at a whole school,
Hmm.
like, and that was just kind of like the level of instruction. And they had multiple instructors there that had their own schools, so you just think about the reach,
How
and
deep the
just
knowledge truly goes.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, right. And that's where these guys were coming to train, right? They had their own schools and their own places, and they were coming there to learn. And I was maybe about, maybe 10 feet from John Danaher. He was in his office. The door was open, so he's got like this tiny little office in the back
Hmm.
corner of the mat. Like, you have to walk on the mat to get to the office. And I was rolling, and I was getting balled up, and I looked, and I saw him like through his office. He was like sitting there reading, and I was like, man, I debated really hard. I wanted to go say hi, but it was like the middle of class, and he
Uh-huh.
was like doing something, and I don't know. I honestly didn't know what I would have said, even if I did say something. So, uh, yeah, that was as close as I got. But it was cool, man. It was just, it was cool too. Was very similar to New York. Like, there's a lot of languages being spoken in that place.
Hmm.
There are some people who didn't even speak English.
Yeah, it's and
But
that's the
but
thing too. It's you know, even though they're not all speaking the same language, I guarantee you they're still bonding, and it's still a jujitsu language that no other sport really has. And
yeah,
not only sport, but school in particular too. They're one of the best, if not the best, jujitsu school in the world. Who
yeah,
they put out Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones, Nicky Ryan, a bunch of different champions, and
George
it's
St. Pierre, Matt Serra,
yeah,
all those guys on the East Coast. Like, Hanzo Gracie himself has, close to, at least that I know of, at least 5 schools in New York alone.
yeah,
Not to mention, the ones in New Jersey. He's got now one in Chicago that, my professor runs, in Lincoln Park. Like, he's got schools all over the place. And for me, I think, as that wasn't really much of a story, but like, for me, it was really eye opening to see, like, like the idea of lineage, right? And like
yeah. It's
how
a huge thing.
close to pure jujitsu we are, right? Like, Professor Christian is, you know once, twice removed from,
Yeah,
actual the mecca of jujitsu, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, to know, and even get a black belt under him would be, Anthony Farrell, Professor Farrell, right?
yeah,
Like, that's how pure, the lineage is. That's how deep our roots go. That's how close to the actual, like, root of jujitsu that we are, right? So, that was really just, really a really cool experience,
hmm.
because there's, people who spoke Japanese, people who spoke Korean, people who spoke Portuguese, right? Like, but they all
How
spoke
is
jujitsu.
how is their like training run? Is it more drilling than rolling? Is it they have certain instructors teaching different drills?
Dude,
How is
it's
it?
all the exact same stuff. Like, if you've gone to the U, like, if you traveled to, if I don't know if you ever had a chance to go, but that's how they teach it. You warm up, you do your jumping jacks, your squats, your push-ups, your stretches.
Mhm.
They do a warm up, like, a self-defense technique. You go back and forth. Here's the technique of the day. Here's the next step to the technique of the day.
Mhm.
Cool. Situation goes, or was it a specific training? Rolling. That's it.
So let
Like,
me ask
that
you.
same structure is the Gracie style of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So let me ask, what, in your opinion, do you think, so, they're doing the same thing, right? So what separates somebody who is, a good jujitsu competitor as opposed to a great jujitsu competitor, like a top level champion? What do you think truly separates? Is it more mentality? Is it a matter of repetition? What do you think it is?
Yeah, man. I mean, I follow a lot of coaches, right? Like I've had a lot of great coaches in my life, and I think that the good and the great can really separate the moment from what it's kind of perceived as. And what I mean by that is like you just got to be the best that day, right? Like you don't
Hmm.
have to be better than the whole world. You don't have to be better than 7 billion people, right? If you go
Yeah.
to the IBJJF worlds, there's the dudes in your bracket, however many between the 16 and 32 of them. You just got to be better than half of those guys
Yeah.
on that day, right? And so like the people who blow it up in their brain and they get nervous and they shake themselves up because they think, oh, there's millions of people are watching, there's money on the line, this is the biggest thing of my life. Like the people who shoot themselves in the foot by making it bigger than it is, those people don't go the furthest, right? So it's like
Hmm.
the people who can separate it and say, who can perform and do what they do the best in that moment, that's really all you can hope for.
Yeah.
And as far as like, drilling and, yeah, the repetitions have to be there, like the people who, like I said, who are able to perform in the heat of the moment in that moment.
Yeah. So
If
the people that
whoever
show
drilled
up.
more, whoever gets quicker, whoever's more flexible, whoever has a better reaction time in that moment, like that's really all you can hope for. But you can prepare, only so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, let's take a little bit of a dive into your fitness teachings, we could say. So I've been wanting
Yeah.
to ask you, for myself personally, your training outside of combat sports for
Hmm.
combat sports, is it more of a like traditional strength, like, splits and stuff like that? Or is it more of a functional geared towards that sport type of training? How do you look at it?
Yeah. So I got my certification as a corrective exercise specialist through NASM, which is the National Academy of Sports Medicine. They're like one of the biggest ones in the United States where you can get certified, become a personal trainer and stuff. That really opened my eyes to a lot of different, more like the science stuff of it. For me, it was just always like, I got introduced to yoga in high school, and you know, um, I've known a lot of yoga people, and I've known a few instructors who have kind of, you know, brought me into that world a little bit. So for me, stretching was always just kind of like something that you just had to do, like
Hmm.
running. Like maybe you don't like to run, maybe running is terrible for you. Stretching was just one of those things. You did it a little bit before, you did a little bit after, and
Hmm.
all the way up into my, up into my 20s, that was just the relationship I had with stretching. It was just kind of something you did. Um, but it wasn't until, like between like my early to like middle 20s that I started, like I hurt my knee for the first time. And, I was having like really, really bad back problems. My lower
Hmm.
back was like really hurting, like more so than it ever had. And, I was really just like, determined to kind of, you know, find more things that could help. And a lot of research, a lot of just, like you said, podcasts and studying athletes and
Yeah.
listening to what they talk about, and you know, just studying, man, being a student of the game, like just trying to find answers instead of like taking pain pills or ibuprofen or stuff like that. Like there's got to be something.
Hmm.
And that's just kind of what brought me down the path. And I haven't really figured out like what how far into this I want to go, like the corrective exercise. Like it's definitely opened my eyes to like imbalances in my own body and things that I've been able to help correct. And if I want to coach fighters in the future, I would definitely want to have that, feather in my cap just for them, just to be able to kind of help fix them, because it's done a lot for me. And my explosiveness and my ability to run, my ability to kick, like all of
Mhm.
those things were hindered by locked body parts that I had just jacked up and had no clue how to fix.
Yeah, and a lot of people have that, you know, stuck mindset instead of growth mindset with
Yeah.
fitness and injuries, especially because, a lot of people come from, especially in fighting, oh, my back's bothering me. Okay, I'm just going to tough through this practice, get through it,
Yep.
and attack it the next day. And
Yep.
doing that really hinders your performance. And I think people now are starting to it's the mobility and recovery is, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting into it heavily, but I feel like it's starting to curve a little bit and people are starting to do it more. But
Yeah.
how do you, as a coach attack somebody like that who they have that mentality and you want to get them into the whole recovery and mobility? Do you, show them the ropes of it? What would you do?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like different like little stupid human trick tests that we can do, like the overhead squat or like the push up. A lot of it is just kind of showing people, you know, things that are wrong that they don't even really know are wrong, because they've been wrong for so long
That it
that
feels
they just
right.
become normal,
Yeah.
right? And that's what our bodies does. Our body our body is an adaptation machine, an adaptation machine, right? So like whatever we make our body do, whatever we pour on top of it, eventually our body is going to shift and change to support that function, right? So if you sit at a computer for 8 hours a day, eventually your body's going to form and sit in order to make sitting at a computer the most efficient as possible,
Yeah.
right? Using as less energy as possible. So that means like, bowing your neck so that you can look closer, and hunching your shoulders forward so that you could, be a little bit closer to the screen. And like, even though it's terrible for living, it's really efficient for sitting at a computer screen,
Yeah.
right?
Especially now
But
as technology, you know,
oh yeah,
goes now, there's the problem with the looking at the phone. So your neck
yep,
and
craning your neck, yep.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I have a huge problem with that, man, because so like I'll lay on my bed like this, like I'll put my pillow like this, and I
Mhm.
look at my phone, which is super terrible. I mean, imagine just sitting at like standing with your neck in the air for hours, like
Yeah.
just doing like it's so bad for you. Um, and but it's comfortable, and it's a good resting position. And because I'm on my phone so much, it becomes an efficient way of sitting for my body, even though it's terrible on the actual, biomechanics of it. Um, and that's the thing too, man. It's just like everything we do is killing us, right? Like
Yeah. No.
sitting in our car, walking too much, sitting too much, wearing terrible shoes, like, sitting on the couch too much, whatever, like working out too much, like all these things are affecting our body. And, to answer your original question is basically just like show people this, like, hey, you're supposed to be able to, bend without your knees touching. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be able to bend without your heels coming off the ground, right? Like you're supposed to be able to touch your toes, like that's kind of something that people, they don't really think about needing to do because maybe they don't do it every day.
Yeah.
But, especially people who are like fighters or people who are, want to be athletic, you know, I just give them the warning, like, look, man, like you can get ahead of this by helping your body, you know, soften the blow of what you do, right? Like if your body's really limber and flexible and you throw a lot of crazy activity at it, right? It can absorb that and be okay,
Yeah.
right? But if you're just this tight, super stiff hunk of, bone and metal, basically, if you start throwing really, really hard activity at it, right? Eventually something's going to blow. And, the thing that you love to do so much, you're not going to be able to do it for weeks and weeks at a time. And I can tell you, like, being on the sideline when you want to do jujitsu it
Yeah.
sucks, man.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something I've noticed too with stretching. There's some sort of stigma to it that people just don't want to do it, or it's for, gymnasts or dancers and stuff like that. And
Yep.
what I think people don't realize is that, stretching, mobility, and recovery will directly impact whatever sport you're doing, whatever job you're doing. No
Yep.
matter what job you have, you're going to be, hunched over, or you're going to be picking something up, or, you don't even have to do a sport.
Yep.
So, it directly impacts your life. And that's what people, I feel like, have a hard time grasping, or a hard time putting into their life. I don't know if you know who Paul Chek is. He
Mhm.
he does podcasts, books.
Okay.
He said, knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. You can know
Yeah.
all the stretching and mobility and stuff you want, but if you don't implement it,
And
then
do it. Yeah.
yeah, then it's not, thinking about it isn't gonna do anything, which is why that just start mentality is a good mentality to have for everything, not just, stretching mobility.
Yep. And it's one of those things, man, where it's kind of like it's preemptive in the sense that like the more you stretch, the better off you'll be as far as injuries. Like you'll help prevent injuries, right?
Mhm.
It's like insurance. Like it's insurance is stupid because you have to pay a bunch of money. If nothing happens, you're just paying a bunch of money for nothing,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
if you stretch and stretch and stretch and nothing happens to you, it's like, all right, that's kind of dumb. But if you get into a car accident and you don't have insurance, well, now you're in trouble,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you're going to be, up for a lot of money that you're going to have to pay out of pocket. And so stretching is like that. You don't have to stretch. Sure, don't go. All right. But if you go and then you start doing jujitsu, or you start running, or you whatever, like you're going to come to a point where you're going to have that major accident. And now what? Now you need dang shoulder surgery, or you need, knee surgery, when you could have just been stretching the whole time.
Mhm. Something
But
I want to talk to you
no, go ahead.
about, that I've always wanted to do, and I saw you recently got into it, and that's rock climbing.
Oh yeah, heck yeah, dude.
So I want to talk,
Dude,
how
you
how'd you
need to.
get into rock climbing?
So quarantine, man. The gyms were closed, and I was like literally going crazy inside my house, like so crazy that I started running. And like for anybody who knows me and knows that I hate running, a lot of it had to do with my back issues, man. Like my hips were so tight, and like my glutes and everything were so jacked up that running was really painful. I couldn't go longer than a mile without actually like, just being miserable. So the so right was one of the things that kind of helped get me back to being able to run. Changing my running form was another thing. But man, what did you originally ask? Went off.
Oh, I just said, how'd you get into the rock climbing?
In the rock climbing, that's right. So my homie got into it from another one of his friends. Um, they're both construction worker guys. They work outside. They work with their hands, and one of them got into it. Another one got into it, and he was posting videos of it. And I was just like, "Yo, man, like, what are you doing? And how can I get out of the house to go do it with you?" He's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, dude, just buy some climbing shoes and come on out." And that was it, dude. That was all she wrote, man. I just started climbing. There's a couple things in Chicago. There's some rocks, some walls and stuff that we were finding because all the gyms were closed. And a lot of it, is very, very similar to jujitsu, man. Like it's a lot of grip and hand strengthening, and a lot of like body engagement, right? Like you're really on, like everything is in the shoes, right? But like
Mhm.
for the most part, like if you don't have like the grip strength or the ability to like latch onto the wall, it's tough. But dude, it's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot. It's
Yeah,
really exhilarating. Getting up on the wall, man, getting 15, 20 feet high is, dude.
yeah. I've
It's
always wanted to get into it. I got to start.
where did you move to? I remember you moved
Wisconsin, Burlington, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, dude. Check it out. What is it called? It's called Mountain Project.
Yeah,
Um, I think in Wisconsin, dude, I'm sure there's stuff for you to go
yeah,
out and find. A lot of wilderness out there.
yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, man, get some climbing shoes. I'm sure they got maybe even some climbing gyms out there. Like, get some climbing shoes and go find some stuff, dude. Like, dude, it's one of those things where it's a super loose sport in the sense that it's not like super 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 technical.
Hmm.
Like, it's kind of just like very, very like I would say kind of like skateboarding, like
Yeah.
there isn't a whole lot of rules
Creativity.
to it. Yeah, it's just like, there's no one way to do it, like even if you were to ask really good climbers, like they wouldn't really even be able to explain some of the techniques that they do. Like it's just kind of like you just kind of got to
Yeah.
figure it out,
Yeah.
So it's, the community, again, another thing you said about community is really, really cool. Very, very welcoming to beginners. And they're weird in their own little quirky way. And yeah, man, it's just really cool. I got to travel, go see some rocks and climb some really big stuff. And it's cool, man. It's just another one of those things, another one of those languages, like when you
Yeah.
go to a new place, you can find something that, find automatically the people that you relate to in a new place. And there you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, you should check it out.
I've been becoming obsessed with like the idea of mastering body weight movements.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if you can have, you can go, somebody could go in the gym and they could deadlift 500 pounds, but will that same person be able to control their whole body? And I've been
Probably not.
really, yeah, no, I've been really liking the idea of, getting that down because it's such, people, I feel like there is muscles that you build and that you work out that, well, that you don't work out in a gym,
Yep.
that's why grappling strength is a real thing, like grappling
100%.
strength.
Oh
Because
yeah.
in wrestling, you're working muscles you didn't know you had. And
Yep.
I think when you master the control over your body, not master, but start to get down the
For
control over
sure.
your body, you see bigger strength gains than if you were to squat 5x5s twice a week.
1,000%. Because it's directed into like a precise way, right? So like especially in jiu-jitsu, you got guys who, I got to a chance to roll with Master Soka. He's a 6th degree black belt, ADCC champion, IBJJF world champion out in New York. He's all of 140 pounds,
Hmm.
5'4". This dude is not that big.
Yeah.
But when I tell you, it was like trying to grapple a house. It was,
Yeah.
I kid you not, it was insane. But it's because it's directed, right? Like it's so precise in every angle and, inch of where he needs it to be that it just seems impossible. And a guy, I guarantee you, anybody who could deadlift 500 pounds go in there will get twisted up by that guy, no problem, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you're on the right path, man. I hurt myself trying to lift really heavy weights,
Hmm.
like after a while, you get it's the law of diminishing returns, right? Like
Yeah.
eventually, like you get the benefit, but the more it happens and the more you kill yourself, like eventually the benefit begins to dwindle,
Yeah.
and you begin to start to, put more access on your body that you just don't need to. And especially you, man, you're 16, like you can do this body weight stuff until you're, 24 years old. And then when your male, like man, adult body starts coming in, if you
Yeah.
wanted to like spike it with some weights, but dude, you can get stupid strong with just pull-ups and push-ups
Yeah.
and
And
dips
like
and
you said,
kettlebells.
you
Like
told me some of the best guys are the guys that stay around the longest, and that's true. And I think
thousand
people
percent, dude.
people um, focus so much on getting to a specific point, but then what happens after that point?
Yep.
Like, you could train and lift and kill your body to be the world champion, but then what happens when that slope starts to come down? It's the
Yep.
people that do it smart and they recover, and it might be a slower, and it probably will be a slower incline, but
Yep.
there won't be as much of a decline.
Yep. Exactly right. And dude, that's what, again, like if I can say anything is like take your time. You're in early enough to where you're focusing good at, your focus is in the right place, but you know your goal is to be training at 99 years old,
Yeah.
right? Your goal is not to be, you know, 30 surgeries in, you know, in a wheelchair, all that stuff. Like, hey man, if you, ride till the brakes fall off and that's the way you want to live your life, more power to you. But, you know, I I'm not living for now. I'm not living for 30 years old or, just the near future. I'm trying
Yeah.
to, be alive until then and
Yeah.
still
Me
do
too.
this.
Yeah.
Like, so if that's what you want to do, you got to make sure you're taking care of your vehicle. You got to make sure you're, putting air in your tires. You got to make sure you're changing the tires, rotating them, oil changes, all that stuff, man. Like the
Yeah.
same way you take care of your car, you got to take care of your body. And if you neglect that stuff, you're going to hurt yourself early on and you're going to have to carry that shit with you until you're old man, right?
Yeah.
You blow your knee
100%.
out in the next 2 years because you're going too hard and you're not stretching and you're not doing your recovery, bro, and you have to get knee surgery or you don't get knee surgery, you're carrying a bum knee now until you're dead.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But when you can actually like, take it easy, learn, grow, do it the right way, dude, there's no saying, you could be fighting until you're damn 34 years old,
Yeah. And what sucks
like
is that,
some of the dudes are still doing now.
yeah, most people don't realize, the whole stretching and recovery until it's too late. And
Until
that's
it's
why,
too late.
one of the reasons I actually wanted to start a podcast was just so I can get out, the information. And I don't know everything, but I feel like I'm on
Sure.
a good path. And nobody's going to know everything, but I
Absolutely.
want to, give out the information that I know because it can really help, people my age or even people in their early 20s, whatever,
Yep.
because that's the whole community. You want to see people come up with you. You don't want to push anybody down.
Yeah, and that's amazing, man. Like that's, we need more people like who view it like that, right?
Yeah.
Because you're inspired by someone like me. I've been inspired by people before me, and you're inspiring dudes that you don't even know that you don't even know.
Yeah.
Kids who are now 6, 7 years old who see something on TV or they come to one of your fights one day and you sign an autograph and they're like, man, that dude was a superhero. I want to be like him, kind of thing. Like if you're putting out the information that you have, right? You're creating value. You're putting out what you got, dude. If it affects one or two people,
Yeah.
it's worth it,
It
right?
is.
Like
Yeah.
if it gets information to somebody who didn't have it before, or gets some information to someone who changes their life, you know, it's
Yeah.
worth it, man.
Which is
Even
why
if it's yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to definitely have you on first because you've given me a bunch of the tools and knowledge that I use now. So I want to start
I
passing your
appreciate that,
stuff
man.
down the ladder.
Heck yeah,
Keep it going.
that's what it's for, man. That's why I do this, man. I left a pretty sweet job. I was selling luxury vehicles for Tesla, electric cars. Great job. 50, $60,000 a year,
Mhm.
benefits. It was great. But I fucking hated my life, dude. I hated being there. I hated sitting at a computer screen. Like it was just one of those things where the money was great, and I had everything I could ever want,
Yeah.
traveling, clothes, shoes, whatever, I bought a new car, all that stuff. But it's just like, dude, I hated it. I
Yeah.
hated what I did. I
That,
hated what and,
yeah.
um, I don't make anywhere near as much money now, but, this is what I feel like I was put here to do, or
I'm the
at least,
biggest I'm the biggest
good.
believer in, turn your passion into business. Turn what you love
Yeah.
to do into your work. And I don't think enough people really grasp that concept because, it's you're conditioned from a young age to believe that money is, everybody says money isn't happiness, but nobody truly explores that idea. So, you're
Yeah.
thinking, okay, I have a job where I'm sitting at a desk for 8 hours, but I'll be making 70K. But, I love jujitsu. I'm a purple belt in jujitsu. I could teach some kids classes and I could slowly open up my own school, making less than half that, but I'm truly happy and I can support myself and what I love to do. You'll be so much better off than the guy that's stuck at that job wishing he was somewhere else.
Yeah. And it's hard, man, because like, bro, I'm 27 and, I left, I graduated college. I'm not doing what I, studied in college.
Mhm.
I'm working part-time at Aldi, as a cashier, just so I can have enough money to pay the bills and do what I love and train and not have to worry so much about everything. And, it's tough, man. I'm definitely in a season of humility right now of just kind of like, you know, buying time and you know, it's what happens when you're on the come up, man. Like, it's
Yeah.
not going to be all sunshine and rainbows.
No, for sure.
And if you want to be great, especially at something like fighting, like, dude, there's not a whole lot of money in fighting, you
Yeah.
know, but, you know, when I punch my ticket, when the you know, the Reaper comes and it's time for me to leave the earth, I'm gonna know that I put forth, you know, I did what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I did what I like to do. Even if I don't become a UFC champion, honestly, I really have no desire to be a UFC champion or like, you know, like be at that forefront. Fighting for me is a means to an end.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here because this is what I like to do. And when I don't like to do it anymore, I'm going to go do something else, you
Yeah.
know?
And
But
people
yeah,
are
go ahead.
scared of that, you know, the bad time to get to the good time. But
Uh,
in reality, the good time will feel so much better and well earned than um you know, if you were to just stick with
Dude,
what you were
handed
doing
to
and
you.
hate
Yeah.
it. You know,
Yeah.
things might get worse for, you know, 6 months, a year, 2 years, but then the next 30 are going to be, you know, the best years of your life, simply based off the fact that, you know, you're enjoying what you're doing. It's like how I look at, like, you know, promotions in jiu-jitsu. It's like, if it's a time, like every 3 months, you know, you're going to get that stripe, it's not going to
Yep.
feel the same as if you're working your ass off, you're studying, you're, you know,
Doing your
on
drills,
that
doing your
grind.
stuff.
It's
Yep.
gonna feel so much better when you get that stripe or belt, or, and that's the
Yep.
same thing in life. And people, it feels like an easy concept to grasp to me, but to
Yeah.
other people it's just not.
Yeah, dude. And it's, trust me, man, you're, uh, you're well wise beyond your years, man. Stick with what you're doing. You know, keep it up, bro, because, yeah, I mean, it's tough and it's going to be tough, but like you said, like that, you know, 10% is what people like us live for, right? Like
Yeah.
that moment of glory, that, you know, whatever it is, that thing that pushes us over the edge, right? Like, is the reason why we get out of bed in the morning, man. And people are just scared, man. They're just scared. They don't, they what, because, and I'm scared too, man. I'm, you know, I've been putting some stuff off because of not feeling ready, you know, of putting
Mhm.
stuff off for not thinking that, you know, I'm good enough to do, you know, take the next step. And that's what holds people back. You know, when you put something out there, then it can fail,
Yeah.
right? If you put something out in the universe, then it's the possibility of blowing up in your face.
Yeah.
And so that's why people just never put it out there. They just think, oh, well, you know what? I didn't try, but, you know, if I did try, maybe I would have did it, but, you know, it's cool,
Yeah.
whatever, you know,
You
kind of
never
thing.
want to be
And
that maybe guy, I feel like.
yeah,
And there's a
because, dude,
difference too between, like you said, not wanting to take the risk and feeling
mm-hmm,
like you're not ready. Because there's
yep,
things that you're not going to be ready for. And there's
thousand
things that
percent.
you have to take time to mentally prepare for, to physically prepare for. But once you feel 100% ready, even if you don't feel 100% ready, but you feel like you'll be okay, you got to take the risk, because you don't want to, you know, you don't want to be that guy, that what if guy.
Yeah. Or the guy who's like, yeah, I could have
Yeah.
done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was supposed to do that, you know, but, you know, I could have fought pro. I could if I wanted to, but I didn't, kind
Well,
of
I
thing,
bet
you
you
know,
the
like,
guy that tried and failed is happier than the guy that didn't do it at all, you know?
absolutely. Because that guy knows something, you know, he knows a little bit something more about himself. You know, whether he was ever in for it or not, he was able to check the box and say, hey, you know, I did it. And yeah, that's kind of where I want to be, man.
Yeah.
But, you know, the more I do it, the more I train, the more I dig deep too. And one thing that I hope you'll realize one day, man, is like, there isn't a whole lot of people trying to do what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Right. Again, this isn't this. We're not baseball players.
Hmm.
Right. We don't have millions of kids around the United States, you know, who are playing little league, you know, playing high school, playing college. Want like there is none of that. There's only, we're talking about like less than 1% of the population,
Yeah.
and then like 1% of that population, right, is like people who are actually competing against. So
Yeah.
like, you know, I always used to watch fighters, you know, like even in the UFC, and be like, I can't do what they do. You know, I
Hmm.
wouldn't want to fight those guys. those guys would wreck me, whatever, But now the more I train and the more I find coaching and, the more my understanding grows, maybe I'm getting crazier, or maybe I really am confident in like, hey, you know what? I really think I could compete with those guys.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that those guys are doing anything more than what I could be doing,
Hmm.
at this moment or at this time. And, you know, um, you're the, there right now we're in a pocket of time where you can capitalize on something and you don't have to be as much as you think there is.
Hmm. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I
Like
definitely.
we have this vision of what we think that goal is or what we think the top is, and I don't think that it's anywhere near as big as we think that it is.
And you won't know you're there until it's past, I feel like, too. Like
Yeah.
when you can look back and feel like, all right, that's the time when, I was happy and when I was enjoying what I was doing or whatever it is, that yeah, it's not a place of setting too high of goals. It's more a
Hmm.
place of, maybe that goal isn't where you'll be happy because you don't know that that goal is where you'll be happy. And that's why,
Yep.
a lot of people will set a goal like, I want to be a UFC champion. Well, then what happens when that comes? Like, what happens when that comes?
Yep.
What's your goal then?
Yeah. And a lot of people don't. They put all their hope. I'm gonna be the champion of the world. I'm gonna be the Tyson Fury, right? Like that's a huge. If you've ever listened to his story, like he wanted to be the best in the world, and he was named after Mike Tyson, and then he became the world champion, and he literally almost killed himself, right?
Yeah.
Like he started drinking and doing cocaine and got
Yeah.
depressed, and like because you push and you push and you push and you push and you make that your life ambition, and once you hit the goal, it's like, okay, well then what's the meaning of life then
Yeah.
anymore? Like
Yeah.
what's beyond this? Like you were saying, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to think about, the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 30 years, like more so than just some getting my hand raised in the middle of a ring, while people cheer for me, like
Yeah.
there's more
100%.
to it than that, like this can be the way that I do it. I've been doing it for a long time. Why not, try and flip it a little bit? Why not try to make a little money, and set myself up for the next couple of years,
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to start closing this up so you can go train. And it's been a good, I think, almost 50 minutes.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I,
so, your YouTube is, what's your YouTube?
so it's Lightning Kid, MMA and Fitness.
Lightning Kid MMA and Fitness. He has an awesome MMA beginner's guide where I think anybody, beginner or not, could benefit from it.
Heck yeah.
Um, Instagram, Lightning Kid Fit. Check out all of his stuff. And yeah, this was an awesome podcast. Thanks for being on, brother.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man. This has been a great chat, man. Like I said, brother, you're on the right path. You're wise way beyond your years, man. Stick with doing this. Stay away from the girls. Promise you, bro, if you grind it out for the next 5, 10 years, really, really dedicate yourself to this craft, you're gonna look back at this podcast and be like, man, he was right.
Yeah,
Stayed away. I kept my nose to the grindstone. I just, did your school, whatever, did whatever needed to do, take care of your family. And, dude, you'll be there, man. Like you'll be there, like if you want to be,
yeah, I do, and
so.
I appreciate that. And I will attribute my success to you and everything you've helped me on.
Well, we'll be there
So
together, man. And,
yeah, for sure.
like I said, whenever you come into town, obviously I got some stuff in the works, man. If you have anything, man, you let me know. All right.
Yeah, thank you for joining. It's been awesome.
Anytime, brother. You let me know.
All right, yeah, peace out, man.
All right. Out.
All right, see ya. All right, guys. So that was Marcos Lightning Kid Estrada. Thank you guys for listening. It was fun. It was an awesome conversation, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.